Good afternoon. I'm County Executive Ken Jenkins, and we are here this afternoon at the McKalian Office Building to formally announce the recommendations that are resulting from the second edition of the Blueprint for Change, a report that examines the quality of life for Black residents living in Westchester County. This afternoon, joining me, of course, is our Deputy County Executive, Richard Wishney, our legislator, Jewel Williams Johnson, the chair of the African American Advisory Board, Barbara Edwards, and Claudia Edwards, the president and CEO of the Edwards Consulting Group, who is the author of the Blueprint, the second edition of the Blueprint for Change. And I think she was involved in the first edition. She'll make sure to tell us that as well. You know, we want to start out by thanking everyone that's here with us this afternoon. Barbara Edwards is the longtime chair of the African American Advisory Board, and the African American Advisory Board has utilized this information from the original Blueprint for Change and has very, very specific tasks that are done outside with the subgroups and the committees that are inside the African American Advisory Board. Our Deputy County Executive, myself, were engaged and involved with the African American Advisory Board, who provides input to not just the County Executive's office, but also to the Board of Legislators and helps set the direction for many of those items to come. So we'll hear from everyone in just a minute, but we want to always start by giving a special thanks to the African American Advisory Board, whose role is to remain engaged in key areas affecting the lives of Black residents here in Westchester County. The African American Advisory Board is responsible for both advising the County Executive and the Board of Legislators. The first edition of the Blueprint for Change was released in 2010. So the second edition of Blueprint for Change studied four critical areas: economic development, education, housing, and health and human services. This report was prepared for the African American Advisory Board. Following this study, the African American Advisory Board developed a list of 14 recommendations detailing how Westchester County government might adapt policies and programs to improve the lives of Black residents here in Westchester County. Studies like the Blueprint for Change help us gather the necessary insights into potential problems that may influence our residents, but it also helps us to identify key areas for improvements. As your newly elected county executive, I want to continue to pledge our dedication to having a fair and equitable Westchester County, regardless of race, ethnicity, or economic status. And while we continue to make improvements, there's always more things to do. So with that, I'm going to turn over first to Barbara Edwards, the chair of the African American Advisory Board, for her comments, and then we'll go from there. Barbara.
Thank you. I am pleased to represent the African American Advisory Board as we launch the Blueprint for Change. This document is a comprehensive initiative that aims to address and eliminate disparities that have impacted the African American community in areas of education, economic development, housing, health, and human services. I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to County Executive Ken Jenkins and his unwavering support for this initiative. I also want to acknowledge the members of the Westchester County Administration for their dedication and hard work in supporting this significant endeavor. A special thank you is extended to the members of the African American Advisory Board whose vision, passion, and tireless efforts have been the driving force behind this document. Their collective wisdom and experience shaped the Blueprint for Change into a powerful tool of transformation. I would also like to recognize Dr. Claudia Edwards, the researcher and author of the Blueprint for Change document. Her meticulous research, insightful analysis, and thoughtful recommendations have provided us with a clear and actionable roadmap to bring about meaningful change in our communities. And lastly, but certainly not least, I would like to thank all the community leaders, stakeholders, and residents who have contributed their voices, experiences, and ideas to this project. Their input has been invaluable and their continued engagement will be crucial as we move forward. The Blueprint for Change is not just a document. It is a call for action, a beacon of hope, and a testament to our determination to create a more equitable and just society. It highlights the stark realities and systemic barriers that African American communities face daily and presents a comprehensive set of recommendations to address these issues. In education, we seek to ensure that every child has access to quality education and the services they need to succeed. In economic development, we aim to create opportunities for financial stability and wealth building. In housing, we strive to provide safe, affordable, and accessible homes for all. In health and human services, we are committed to improving access to quality health care and support services to our communities. This document is only the beginning. To bring the Blueprint for Change to life, we need the collective effort of everyone. And so, we appeal to policymakers, business leaders, community organizations, and residents to join us in this critical mission. We must work together to implement these recommendations, advocate for necessary policy changes, and hold ourselves accountable to the goals we have set forth. Let us not be content with merely identifying the problems. Let us be relentless in our pursuit of solutions. Let us stand united in our resolve to dismantle the disparities that have plagued our communities far too long. Together, we can and we must make a difference. I would like to reiterate my profound gratitude to all for your support and contributions. The Blueprint for Change is a testament of what we can achieve when we come together with shared vision and purpose. Let us embark on this journey with courage, convictions, and an unwavering commitment to justice and equality. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair, Barbara Edwards, and again, as the longtime chair for the African American Advisory Board, and the volunteer members that make sure to not only take their time, energy, and effort to be part of making a difference every day. They are assigned into committees that are based on the ideas of the blueprint. And every year, the African American Advisory Board, under leadership of Barbara Edwards, comes out and makes sure that there are tasks that are done, a roadmap for the year, goals and objectives, and certainly a critical eye on what things worked and what things didn't work. And that is one of the hallmarks of the African American Advisory Board under Barbara Edwards' leadership. So we thank her and the entire volunteer board for African American Advisory Board for the work that they do. At this time, we want to give an opportunity for the author and researcher, Dr. Claudia Edwards, to come up and share her thoughts. So, Dr. Edwards.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I also joined in celebrating the election of our new county executive. My appreciation for being selected to embark on this journey and work with the African American Advisory Board. And it's my pleasure today to present some thoughts on the findings. First, I want to one thing I'd like to do is recognize the transparency among many organizations in the county area, and much of this research could not have been done without organizations documenting their thoughts and findings in the various economic indicators that we examined. To name a few, the Westchester County Association, Westchester Magazine, Fair Housing Justice Center, Hudson Valley Patterns for Progress, the Century Foundation, Westchester Community Foundation, Westchester County Department of Health, Westchester Department of Planning, Westchester Housing Opportunity Commission, Westchester WRO, and the Anti-Defamation Center. And again, they are among at least 40 organizations that I was able to draw upon their valuable research. what became very apparent to me as I conducted this study was that in spite of the gains made, people of African ancestry continue to be among the poorest in our community. And I showed my report first to a very good friend who said to me very simply, "So what else is new?" Nothing has changed. And that question was very perplexing to me in terms of why am I spending time on this report if nothing has really changed. And it led me to begin thinking about those social barriers that impede people of African ancestry from achieving their full potential. And so for example, we discovered structural barriers that existed across all aspects of the economy. Barriers that included built-in systems that resulted in inequities. So, for example, beginning with residential housing patterns. This is, housing is where you live, where most of your growth and development occurs. It determines the kind of access you would have to public schools, vital resources like health, contacts in the private world, in the private and public industries for education, and of course, healthcare choices. And so, in spite of people of African ancestry representing only 12% of the Westchester's population, 77% live in Westchester's central cities, with predominantly living in Mount Vernon and Yonkers, about 55% of the total population. That results in a serious segregation housing patterns, and it limits people's opportunities to find housing in other communities. Some of the social barriers include high cost of housing, limited options for quality and affordable housing in other communities, local zoning laws, and persistent ignoring of fair housing laws. In the area of education, while children of African ancestry represent 11% of all children attending public schools in Westchester County, the vast majority of them attend schools in high-need school district areas. And when you compare them to low-need communities like Scarsdale, Pelham, you find that there is a significant difference in the amount of financial support children have in those communities of about $5,000 per pupil. So kids in poor communities receive less than $5,000 or more of resources for their education. And the learning disparities also is present and distinctive between those two types of communities. In the area of healthcare, although Westchester is recognized as having a high rate of healthy people, their healthcare indicators for people of African descent are very low. For example, among 60 measurements for various health conditions defined by the State Department of Health, 47 measurements show the state of health among African Americans far worse than any other ethnic group in Westchester. The lifespan for African Americans is 78 years old. It's 78 years versus 82 years for their white residents. In the terms of what I found interesting in the report is this whole notion of the economy and how African Americans do not have the opportunity to maximize the potential that lies here in this county. And while we did not find a lot of data to give us insight on housing, on the economy in Westchester County, we certainly looked at national data that showed us how we can look at Westchester County. So, for example, people of African ancestry represent 12% of the U.S. workforce and only 5%. They only represent 5% of major workforce in the country. The vast majority of Black workers occupy non-management, low-paying positions, and they are vastly underrepresented in high-paying positions. And in spite of the educational attainment among Black Americans, they continue to be underrepresented in management positions. You know, with the structural barriers, we say it's impossible to overcome. And it is very difficult, and I can give you some examples of when we were able to break out of structural barriers. The Civil Rights Movement, for example, is an example of how we broke out of a major structural barrier caused by institutional segregation. And you saw that we found in our research, we documented in our research all of the improvements that have been made as a result of breaking out of that social barrier. And so while I say, while it can be viewed that it's hopeless to deal with some of the social barriers in the county, it's not impossible. But it takes a combination of people coming together and recognizing the value of all citizens and what they have to bring to the community. And so I hope that the findings can be used as an opportunity not to place blame or criticize what it has and has not been done, but be thoughtful in terms of how we can make the future better and bright for all people in our community, regardless of their race, color, and creed. And again, I thank you for the opportunity for this research. I found it exciting, exhilarating, depressing, difficult to read, but satisfying and know that there's a community or there's a county interested in investing in the future of all people who live here in this county. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Edwards. Thank you, Dr. Edwards, and certainly, as always, from an analysis perspective, to take that kind of data and do what the African American Advisory Board does by making sure to pass that information on to not just the County Executive's Office, but also to the Board of Legislators, that allows the Board of Legislators to develop laws and policies that the administration then carries out to make sure that everyone in Westchester continues to feel what we always say is everyone is valued here, and making those changes. And yes, while there's a lot of things that have gone forward and there's been progress made, there's always more to do, and that's what the work and the research continues to show. With that kind of leadership, we have Jewel Williams-Johnson, who is not only the Budget and Appropriations Chair, she also has the chair of the Health and Human Services Health Subcommittee. All right, so we don't want to give it too much, but the reality is there's a lot in that. And with that, let's turn over to Legislator Jewel Williams-Johnson.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just honored to be here as an African American in Westchester County, and this being what I like to call African American History Month. It's more than apropos that this announcement is today in February. I can't thank the African American Advisory Board enough, with Barbara Edwards at the helm and all the subcommittees, including the subcommittee on asthma. And she has led with dignity and dedication, and it is more than appreciated by all of us in county government. I was fortunate enough to have her and the committee come before us in the fall and present the Blueprint for Change. And what an apropos name, Blueprint. We need to be analytical about our past. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that the youth don't know their history, and this lends towards that. It also lends towards a strategy to move forward. And as Claudia indicated, what I think most important is it lends to everyone in our county realizing and recognizing the contributions of African Americans in our community and the history that they hold and the benefit of having such a diverse community. So I thank you. Thank you, thank you. And I also thank our county executive and our deputy county executive for their leadership in bringing this forth today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jewel Williams-Johnson, Legislator Jewel Williams-Johnson. That again, echoing the reality that there's always an opportunity to make improvements, and as it is Black History Month, that the opportunity for us to continue to look and ensure that everyone in our county understands it takes all of us together to make a difference. Sometimes, as we say, American history is complicated, and because of that complication, it means that, as Dr. Edwards was pointing out, not to be looking to identify to blame, but it's identifying to make a difference. And the African American Advisory Board, utilizing the Blueprint for Change, as was pointed out so many times, has taken that opportunity to move things forward and given recommendations to the county as a whole, to the county executive's office, to the county board of legislators, that has shown meaningful change. So that is why over the period of the last 7 years, we're able to point at and say we have $750 million that we've invested with our MWBE firms in Westchester County, because of having a focus on trying to ensure that not only our minority women business enterprises, our service disabled veterans organizations, as well as our disadvantaged business enterprises, not only are being able to be identified through making sure that we have things in a computer scenario where people can look up the different businesses, having a calendar where everyone can access things that was led by the African American Advisory Board, to make sure that we can have a community calendar that where people understand things that are going on in the various different corners of Westchester County, or making sure that we continue to invest in Black maternal health and the kind of programs that we've been able to do from Westchester's perspective, and partnering with our friends at the state level, our state legislators, Governor Hochul, and even our federal government, with both of our Congress people, to make sure, and our presidential levels, to make sure that we're doing those investments to make sure that there's a difference for Westchester County, whether it's for asthma, making sure that we're increasing the air quality around all of the facilities that we have, making sure there's environmental justice as far as the programs and plants that we have in Westchester. So again, what it always shows for us is that we have made significant improvements, but we have to continue to move Westchester County forward, ensuring an inclusive and more supportive environment for all. And when we work together, we know that there's nothing that we can't accomplish. With that, I'm Ken Jenkins, County Executive. Thank you so much for watching, and certainly happy Black History Month, but more importantly, thank you to our African American Advisory Board and the continued work they do to help us make Westchester better. Thank you so much.